Ladies and gentlemen, the Malaysian ringgit has just hit a high of 317 ringgit versus 1 Sing dollar and is set to go even higher. How high will it go? Why is it appreciating? And how much more will it go? Today I'll explain to everybody where this economic phenomena is going towards. So why is the ringgit strengthening? The ringgit today has just hit 317. In fact, in the early afternoon, it even hit 316-ish, and actually it softened a little bit, right? But 317 is a phenomenal appreciation. So question really is, why is it appreciating? And will it go up some more? If it go up some more, how high will it go? Today, I'll attempt to answer all this for everybody. It is a strong year for the Malaysian ringgit. It has gone up by 7% versus the US dollar and has outperformed all the ASEAN peers. And this is really a result of very robust monetary policy, strong foreign inflows of liquidity, and Bank Negara's policy. And let me explain all this for you. First of all, Bank Negara has maintained its exchange rate at about 3%. And this contrasts with the Federal Reserve, who has been cutting interest rate and more interest rate expected to be cut. Right now, Bank Negara is holding on to 3%, and largely because during the great inflation of 2022, Bank Negara did not increase the interest rate by much. And therefore, we should not expect it to cut its interest rate in response to the Federal Reserve rate cut. Another reason why Bank Negara should not cut its interest rate is because the inflationary environment of Malaysia just cooled down from a very high imported inflation. And right now, the core inflation rate is about 2.1%. Its headline inflation at 1.5. It's actually an okay inflation rate right now. But I just need to also tell everybody that is in Malaysia, whether you are Malaysian or Singaporeans shopping in Malaysia, that yes, you will feel that the prices is high because the inflation that has been experiencing in the past has caused the price to go up. But the inflation, which measures the increase in prices, has now gone down, meaning that the prices has finally stopped inflating. It most likely won't go down. Prices are sticky upwards. Okay, so the only comfort you can have is that you won't go up some more. So the difference between Bank Negara, which is the central bank of Malaysia, versus the Monetary Authority of Singapore, is that there is a policy divergence, right? It is actually pursuing a different policy. The Sing dollar is actually softening by MAS because our inflation, especially imported inflation, is now under control. So the Sing dollar don't need to be so strong. Okay. In fact, a strong Sing dollar hurts our exports and so on. Now, Bank Negara is holding its interest rate high at 3%. Okay. And is causing the relative strength of the currency to widen as a result, because of this different policy between the two central banks. The Malaysian ringgit is now appreciating phenomenally. So it was about 343 in 2023 and it's now 317. I remember when I bought the house at one point in time, it was 350, versus a Sing dollar. I didn't catch much of those because it was some form of a progressive payment. So bulk of my house purchase was at 345. Now it's at 317. Okay, thank God. All those things I need to pay is all over. Okay, if not, I'll pay on my pants now. Now, there's an interesting phenomena that people don't see. It is actually bonds market is attracting an inflow in Malaysia. So Malaysian bonds right now is about 3.8 to 4%, is among Asia most competitive one. Singapore T-bills 1.3%. So when you can get 3.8 and 4%, it is really very good. So foreigners have added in October about 4 billion ringgit into the Malaysian government bonds, and that actually caused the whole ringgit to spike up as well. And I think this is something that attracts a lot of the the hot money. We call it hot money as in funds that move in and out because of interest rate differential. Okay. And every time when foreigners want to buy the Malaysian bonds to put money in to get the high yield, they have to exchange foreign currency to Malaysian ringgit. That drives the ringgit up. Now, interestingly, the equity side of Malaysia actually have a significant outflow. In fact, about $16 billion for this year has flown out of Malaysia overseas. And that's largely because the Malaysian stock market ain't that exciting, whereas the rest of the world has exciting counters, especially those with technology ones. So the funds right now has shifted to US and Japanese market with higher returns, and without equities outflow, the ringgit could have been even higher. But fortunately for some of us who are shopping in Malaysia, the equities outflow has softened the blow a bit. If not today, we could have already reached 3:1 ringgit versus Sing. Now, another big strong reason why the ringgit is appreciating is because there is a phenomenal inflow of foreign direct investment. So right now we are looking at about $100 billion coming in, okay? And about of them actually came from Singapore. And Singapore account for about one third of it. And US account for nine, and China plus a lot more. So it is a phenomenal rise in foreign direct investments. That's because of many things that are happening in a very positive way in Malaysia. The Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone has been mooted early this year in January, and since then there is a lot of there's a lot of inflow of funds. So what the Singapore Johor Special Economic Zone is really a 3,600 square kilometers across six Johor district. So it is a pretty significant area. And what they hope to do is to integrate Singapore capital and innovation and funds, and take advantage of the low cost land, logistics, and labor in Malaysia and integrate them together. So if you were to take advantage of this, you have about 5 to 15 years of tax holiday, fast track customs, and to date we have about 50 flagship projects and about 20,000 skilled labor that could be deployed within 5 years. The momentum is strong. So far, $27 billion ringgit project has been approved, and in the pipeline, they are reviewing another $23 billion. So in total, we are looking at some phenomenal number in a very small area, and that's pretty amazing. Some pretty big names, for example, YTL Power and Nvidia, they are all coming together with a US $4.3 billion. ByteDance committing $2 billion in an AI and data infrastructure facility. Microsoft is coming with a US $2 billion facility, and some Chinese company, fruit processing company with a $2.4 billion. There is a lot of interest coming in that's driving investment up, and as a result, they also drive the ringgit up. How does it look for our Sing dollar to ringgit exchange rate? So MUFG forecasts that the US to ringgit could hit around 410, okay, or 413 by end of this year, and there's a potential to hit 405 if the US dollar weaken. And the base case is that some of this prediction to hover Sing dollar to ringgit around 317 with some minor fluctuation. I don't think so. Okay, I think the Sing dollar will further depreciate against the ringgit, and that's because of one big thing. The Federal Reserve is going to cut its interest rate even more. So there'll be some more room for the ringgit to strengthen by end of this year, in my humble opinion. We shall see whether this come to pass. And all those engines they are running that help the ringgit to appreciate, I don't think they're going to stop. Now, I know there's a lot of skepticism towards Malaysia political environment, and I do have my reservation as well. Some positive sign here and there. To date, for example, they have went all out. The new Malaysian government has went all out to recover the lost funds in 1MDB. It's a ridiculous, insane amount of corruption, and so far they managed to recover 1 billion Malaysian ringgit. Okay, and they have seized $15 billion of asset. Now, that's not enough compared to what was lost. I agree. But that's something that they are aggressively going after, fighting corruption and so on. There's a lot of effort by the Malaysian government to rationalize a lot of subsidy. Well, they actually cut a lot of the fuel subsidy. It was reduced, and as a result, the petrol price for Malaysia has gone up. For a Singaporean, I don't think it's going to matter a lot because we can only pump unsubsidized petrol. But for Malaysian, they actually feel the bite. Okay, and as a result, they're feeling some of the heat, and I understand. But these subsidies are heavily abused, okay, by by foreigners, not just I wouldn't say countries, okay, surrounding countries, and they're not just restricted to fuel, but also other kinds of product as well. And as a result, it is important to change from blanket subsidy to targeted scheme. So I can understand this would not be something that Malaysian would like, okay? But look at the results. Your ringgit is now appreciating very strongly, and it reduces the impact of inflation. Look at the inflation results right now. It's at 1.5%. That's very low by Malaysian standard compared to what has happened over the last few years, and set to grow even lower. Now, Johor, unfortunately, because of a phenomenal rush in by Singaporeans to buy stuff because Singapore is just too damn expensive. So Johor has a higher inflation than rest of the Malaysia, I would say, or most of Malaysia. So I think that phenomena won't change for some time. Okay, but I think that policy to rationalize subsidy, it's a painful but right decision to be made, and I will encourage all Malaysians to understand this, bite the bullet, and things will get better in the long run. Now, are there risks to this outlook? Of course, right? What if the US dollar suddenly rebound because the Federal Reserve delay in cutting the interest rate? Can it happen? Yes, it can. If that happened, the ringgit will start to depreciate again. It already happened early this year, okay? And now it just came back. So the decision to be made by the Federal Reserve has an immediate and direct and high impact on the ringgit. Now, if the subsidy reform could not continue because of political pressure, then again the deficits will go on and things like that, and that would further destroy the good work that your prime minister has done. And there could be some execution bottleneck, especially in the Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone, and then later investors get sian about the whole situation. They are very upset, and as a result, they don't pour their investment in. I think everything is possible. Okay, and of course, the global equities continue to rise phenomenally versus the Malaysian stock market, and that could also drive more money out of Malaysia. I will just state it categorically that if the US interest rate continue to cut, okay, significantly, and the foreign direct investments and all the activity in the Johor Singapore Economic Zone continue to build up in a phenomenal way, plus, okay, all the rationalization of wastage, okay, of the Malaysian subsidies that were given has will come gradually to a controlled level. I think that Sing dollar to Malaysian ringgit, 1:3 is a 2026 possibility. I think that we are in the early days of a phenomenal turnaround. Of course, that kind of projection has a lot of assumption, and they need all the assumptions to materialize. But I will just say this in conclusion, and the Malaysian ringgit strength is not a coincidence. It's a result of deliberate, very hard decisions made by the Malaysian government that coincided with the Federal Reserve cutting of interest rates, and this is a good sign. This is a good sign. Today we are seeing a lot of Malaysians coming to Singapore and shop. I see them every Sunday night when I go into Malaysia for back to my house in Malaysia. Okay, I actually see so many Malaysian cars going back to Singapore. So this is really a great work of your government. Okay, And I know that some people has doubts over the longevity of this government of Prime Minister Anwar. I've got no relationship with them. Okay, I'm just an independent political watcher and a dweller in Malaysia. I'll just say this: this is a great work of your government. Don't kiss it away. Okay, don't kiss it away. For fellow Singaporeans, unfortunately, the ringgit is going to appreciate even more. Things will get slightly more expensive, but I think the Sing dollar is still very strong versus the ringgit. All right. Let me hear your view, okay? And I'm happy to get your view in my comments, and I'll see you in the live stream. Bye bye.